Hello guys and gals, this is Code for Geek and I'm your friend Adesh. Felix of PewDiePie switched to Linux Mint recently and later he also switched to Arch Linux and I wanted to talk about it. Not about PewDiePie, but Linux. Like this video and subscribe to the channel as currently 97% of you watching this video aren't subscribed. Seriously guys, help us out. Even though I have covered how you should extend the lifespan of Windows 10 to 2032 on this channel earlier, but I'm not a big fan of Windows and I would advise you not to use it as well. Microsoft is known to push anti-consumer stuff to your PC and don't get me wrong, you can remove them and still use Windows using various tools from GitHub, but let's be honest, proactively trying to fix everything wrong with Windows is really tiring, and even if you fix stuff, the problems eventually come back with the updates. As said by Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux, a PC is like air conditioning. It becomes useless when you open Windows. So in this video, we will talk about how you should switch to Linux, what things you have to keep in your mind if you want to jump the ship, software and hardware limitations you may encounter, and the most important thing, which Linux distribution you should pick. So let's get started. You may or may not know that all the Windows software and applications that you are currently using might not be available on Linux. For example, the most famous of them all, the Microsoft Office suite is not available on Linux. Similarly, the Adobe suite, which includes applications like Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop and so on, is not available on Linux. Now you can use alternative to these apps, and obviously they are not that great as they are usually made by a small team instead of a $1 billion organization. For example, there's the LibreOffice suite, which is a good replacement for Microsoft Office, but you might encounter errors if you open a docx file format, which is saved from MS Word in LibreOffice Writer, which is the equivalent application. Similarly, for video editing, you can utilize DaVinci Resolve, which is a great application by the way, instead of Premiere Pro. But if you're using a highly specialized or a niche software, then chances are that it might not be available on Linux. Although I recommend you to check on the software manufacturer side first if they offer a download for any Linux distribution. Also check for the applications on FlatHub as it is a major software store on Linux. Do note that applications like OBS, Discord and Steam are available on Linux and you can use them for streaming and gaming. And this brings me to the next section of the video. Games do run on Linux. In fact, they can even run with ray tracing on supported graphics card. Thanks to the Proton compatibility layer on Steam, almost every game runs without any issue. And if you own games on other platforms such as the Epic Games Store, then you can use apps like Heroic Games Launcher or Loot Trace. Now, not all the games are supported, and specifically the games which have built-in kernel-level anti-cheat inside them. So Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Fortnite and GTA 5 Online either won't let you join the game or ban your account for cheating if you attempt to run it on Linux-based distributions. So keep that in mind if you want to make the switch. Once again, if you're using any kind of specialized hardware such as the Elgato Stream Deck, then you might not get official support for it on Linux. However, there are community projects on GitHub and various forums which you can use to configure these devices. I'm also using Razer Genie, which is an open source application using which I can configure RGB on my Razer mouse, since the official Razer software is not available on Linux. Also, to configure RGB on other devices, you can check OpenRGB, which is an awesome tool by the way, and it has a list of compatible devices, but if your device is not here, then good luck. Although one more thing you can do is configure RGB on Windows for your mouse or keyboard on another PC or laptop and then connect them to your Linux PC. Yeah, I know it's a hassle. One more thing, if you just bought an extremely new and shiny graphics card or anything else which has not received a driver update on Linux, then it might not be supported as well. Just make sure that whatever you are using is at least 1 year old and you will be fine. Though these issues usually get resolved in the span of a month or two. Usually other reviewers gloss over this fact while making this comparison that battery life on Linux is generally worse than Windows. If you're on a PC then it's not an issue, but on laptops that can cause problems for you. And even in the long run it's bad for the health of the battery as well, because recharging it again and again will lead to degradation quickly. How much degradation might differ from distribution to distribution? So try out different Linux distributions. And that brings us to the next section, which is there are so many Linux distributions out there that anyone can get confused or overwhelmed. So let me be clear. You only need one. Do you just want to play games and stream YouTube from your PC? Then use Bazite OS. You won't encounter any bugs from this OS and it gets regular updates. And it has several optimization which can make your games run smoother. Or use Linux Mint if you want to increase your productivity while your system is extremely stable. It receives less frequent updates than Bazite because, as I mentioned earlier, it focuses on stability rather than being new and shiny. Check out our guide on how to customize Linux Mint on this channel. Last but not the least, you can try out Endeavour OS. It is based on Arch Linux, which is the same OS which lies under SteamOS, and it is the most up-to-date Linux-based distro. So much so that it can break after an update. So make sure that you take regular backups. I also recommend using the LTS kernel with this OS if you want it to be stable. The most advanced feature of Linux is that you can try it out before installing it on your PC. Yes, it's called a live image and you put it on your USB and test things out. See what you like and what you don't, and when you are fully satisfied, then you can install it on your PC. So just pick any Linux distribution which I mentioned earlier and test things out for yourself. And that was it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions related to Linux, and I will try my best to help you out. And see you in the next one.